Hello. Last time we talked a little bit about the LGBTQ community. We also discussed, that pronoun usage. And today we are going to discuss the transgender community. So one thing I'd like you to just think about is what comes to mind when you think of the word transgender. So write that down. Just kind of think about a couple things, jot that down, what goes along with that. For me, the first thing that pops into mind is, a man dressing as a woman. And there's definitely other things that go along with that. That doesn't mean that's only transgender, but that's just one of the things that pop into my mind. So just hang on to that, because today we're going to break down the big ideas of transgender, transphobia, and genderism, and discuss how they show up in our everyday life. We're going to take a look at definitions and break them down in our own words. And then afterwards, we'll use our time to take on a research role to learn and then come up with ways to increase awareness of transgender, transphobia, and genderism in our community, groups, classrooms, and organizations. And I think that there's definitely a stigma around the topic of transgender. There's an elevated level of unconscious bias that bleeds into any topic. There have been several issues that have been publicized, such as debates on bathroom usage, health insurance policies, discrimination, immigration, and military. We've also seen, celebrities, publicize their journeys, such as, Caitlyn Jenner and Jazz Jennings in the reality TV series I Am Jazz. Although we're becoming more aware of transgender issues, it doesn't mean that that goes along with understanding. So many people, to include, students and faculty, have more questions with regard to interacting and promoting inclusiveness, for students, peers, or coworkers, that have transitioned. And I'm not sure about any of you, but, I've experienced, having students and other, peers and faculty members, go through that journey of a transition. So this lesson provides the opportunity to promote that understanding, combat stereotypes, and to have questions answered about the transgender, genderqueer, or gender nonconforming. So ultimately, I want you to leave with this lesson being able to make these valued judgments, regarding some transgender issues. Okay, so to get started, on a piece of paper that I've sent to you, you have some questions, some warm-up questions for this activity. And I want you to go ahead and answer those. And those are, what does transgender mean to you? If you had to define it in your own words, what does gender mean to you? If you had to define it in your own words. And it's okay if you don't know, if you're not sure, just put something down. There's no right or wrong, answers here, because part of our discovery and our investigation, we're going to go back to these questions to see if it's fact or opinion. So the third one, what is transphobia? And are you, or do anyone you've ever known or met is transgender? And then what are some stereotypes that go along with being transgender? And then finally, have you ever experienced, heard of, or seen transgender violence or discrimination? So just take a couple minutes to answer those. And you can go ahead and pause the video, and once you've answered those, just you can unpause it, and then we'll get back to the remainder of our lesson. All right, so now that you've completed the questions, those warm-up questions, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to share with you, I would really like to share with you the interview with Barbara Walters and Jazz Jennings. So, I want you to just pay attention to some things. you know, some of those definitions, some of those stereotypes, you know, what her family, you know, has to say as well. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Good evening. They are the words that any parent would want to hear about their daughter. She is such a remarkable little girl. For a girl named Jazz, the word remarkable doesn't begin to cover it. At just 11 years old, she has taken what most children and their families would regard as a terrible secret and brought it smashing into the open. She is the brave and beautiful new face of a child born in the wrong body. Describe Jazz to us.
Vibrant, happy, full of life, self-confident, beautiful, glowing,
Feminine.
so feminine.
She wears pink cleats on the soccer field.
Do you like my new bra?
And padded bras. She not only dreams of mermaids, she swims like one. If you didn't know it, would you believe this 11-year-old girl was biologically a boy? Let's get this straight, Jazz. Are you a boy or a girl?
I am definitely a girl. Like, that's all I consider myself as. I'm sorry, I know I never do anything with my hair, but...
Jazz is transgender, a boy living as a girl.
I have a girl brain and a boy body. Hi.
When we first met Jazz in 2007, she was only 6 years old and one of the youngest documented cases of an early transition from male to female.
We'll say things like, God made you special, because there aren't very many little girls out there that have a penis.
At age 5, her parents, Jeanette and Greg, made an extraordinary decision. They allowed Jazz to openly identify in the opposite gender because they and their doctor were convinced this was not a phase, but a condition now called gender dysphoria.
A phase is called a phase because it is just that. It ends. And this is not ending. This is just getting stronger.
As difficult as it is for people to understand, you only had to walk into Jazz's bedroom, as I did. Oh, how pretty! To know this was not a passing fad. It was filled with girly things, dresses and dolls. But it was a picture she drew that made Jazz's world crystal clear. Tell me about this picture. Why is the little girl crying?
Because she wants to wear the dress to school.
And Mommy won't let her.
Yeah.
But now, does Mommy let the little girl wear a dress?
Mm-hmm.
Is the little girl you? 5 years later, Jazz is still Jazz. Has Jazz shown any desire to change and go back to being a boy?
Never.
Today, Jazz's bedroom is lined with photos from cheerleading and girls' soccer. She draws and sews, carefully seaming together her own mermaid outfits.
It's like, ooh. The motion makes you feel like you're an actual mermaid.
In fact, many young male to female trans kids are obsessed with mermaids.
And I believe it's because of the ambiguous genitalia. There's nothing below the waist but a tail. And how appealing is that for somebody who doesn't like what's down there?
No one knows why thousands of children like Jazz are transgender. There are only theories.
Mom, is that a mermaid?
Despite growing awareness, many still face unthinkable obstacles from a world that sees them as freaks of nature. Do people treat you differently when they know you're transgender?
Yes, they do. They don't understand what the concept means, and they think that I'm weird and that I shouldn't have the same rights as them just because of what's between my legs.
You know that there are people who think you could have prevented it. Why did you allow it to happen?
Yeah, there's people who definitely think that.
And what do you say?
I don't really care what they think.
Jazz is fortunate. Her parents and 3 siblings accept her, and as much as they can, keep her safe, which is why they asked us not to use their last name or location.
I think the family is very supportive of jazz. We've tried to make things as normal and ordinary American family as we can. The older twins are always looking out for Jazz. Ari, the older sister, and her friends hang out with Jazz. They treat Jazz like a little sister.
What do you explain to people about your sister?
I tell people that it's a disorder and that it's not by choice.
How do you feel, Jazz, when your sister says it's a disorder?
Personally, I don't like that word that much. I'd prefer special or unique because that's what I think being transgender is.
But others have different words to describe Jazz, hateful words, as they discovered after posting this video on YouTube.
Hi, I'm Jazz. I'm 11 years old. I was born a boy, but I live as a girl.
Sharing Jazz's story has come at a price. Are you ever worried about your safety? I mean, does anybody threaten you?
Yeah, on the YouTube videos, some people who are less understanding actually say very nasty and rude comments. It definitely hurts to hear them say that they would want to kill me or something like that.
They can't wrap their mind around the idea of a transgender kid. And I want to tell everybody they're wrong and show them Jazz, because when people meet her, they start to get it.
One, go.
Jazz has a handful of girlfriends. They've all started middle school, a challenging and precarious time, but especially for a transgender tween. She's enrolled in school as a girl, thanks to her parents' lobbying, and her passport even shows her as female. The faculty and some students know about her special situation. She uses the girls' bathroom and even plays on the girls' soccer team. You love to play soccer.
Yeah.
And you're pretty good at it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the age of 8, she was banned from girls' soccer by league officials. What do you say to people who say, well, you know, she's biologically a boy, therefore she's stronger and she shouldn't be on that team?
I do not agree with them because I am like one of the smallest people on my team compared to the other girls. They're all very tall and more masculine, and I'm sort of smaller, but I am quicker.
Jazz fought back, and after a 2.5-year legal battle, won the right to play as a girl. An unprecedented victory that opened the door for all transgender kids. Jazz is clearly making a difference and embracing the spotlight, advocating for transgender rights, receiving awards, posing on the red carpet, meeting stars like Deborah Messing, and riding in New York's Gay Pride Parade.
She's a wonderful spokesperson for trans kids because she's a happy transgender kid, and those two words are never in the same sentence.
Happy but perplexed by her latest new challenge. You are getting to the age, Jazz, when girls and boys date. Are you attracted to girls or to boys?
I'm attracted to boys.
Are you afraid that you might not have dates with boys?
I am a little bit, but if any of the boys decline me because of my situation, then I just know they're not right for me at all.
Okay, so I think that was a very powerful interview. There's a lot of issues immersed there in that interview that come out. So let's just take a couple minutes to also talk about some questions after watching that video. So here are some follow-up questions that you received in one of your handouts. So the first one is, what are some things that you have in common with Jazz, and what are some things that are different? So here's a couple things, for you just to kind of think about. I played soccer growing up. That's one of the things I have in common. Things that are different. I don't like mermaids. So not that I don't like them, but I don't have really a passion or an interest in mermaids. I always think they're neat. But so number 2, if Jazz was in your family or one of your students or a peer, what could you do to help Jazz feel safe or welcome? So, definitely answer that question and just think about it. Go ahead and jot that down, and you use that later in your groups in one of our breakout rooms. You can go ahead and put the answer in the chat. And I think one of the first things that comes to mind is having someone feel safe or welcome, is, accepting them for who they are, and just, not treating them any different, or, it's not really like treating them with whatever type of label they're associating themselves with. It's Jazz. This is Jazz, and we think that you're great, and we want to have a conversation with you, and we want to learn about you. So I think definitely, just taking an interest in anyone and getting to know the person that they are. And then the third question is, after hearing how Jazz describes what it means to be transgender, how does that strengthen, weaken, or change the definition from our warm-up questions? So you can put that in the chat, or you can write that down. And then the fourth one, now, do you notice any mentions or implications of fear or phobia regarding transgender in the interview? And you can go ahead and, put that in the chat or write it down. And I definitely noticed one, maybe, and I think there were several in there that she discussed, especially about like starting to date. And then I think a little bit like with the sister, I think, just the way that she explained that, there was just like a little bit of implication there. I think maybe to other people, and maybe that's something that we don't know, we didn't hear from her, that she as a family member may struggle with herself. So you can go ahead and pause the video, or just take a couple minutes to finish these questions, and then we will definitely get back to our activity. Okay, so now to move on, I want to just talk a little bit about the activity that we'll do. You are going to be play the role of an investigative journalist. So basically, you will need to conduct research in order to inform those in your community that are misinformed or confused and I want you to create a presentation, an article, or material that'll provide accurate information about being transgender and the issues surrounding the topic. So the materials that we'll use here is, I have some clips, and I've also provided you with a handout with the transcripts from a documentary film called From This Day Forward. It's about a transgender woman named Trish and her family. But the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to gather some background information. So, some of the introductory terms, we talked a little bit about before, and we'll emphasize now, is sex. What is sex? That's the characteristics that identifies a person as female, male, or intersex. Physical features, genitalia, chromosomes, things like that. And then gender. Gender are these set of behaviors and activities that are culturally identified as, masculine or feminine. And you notice that in the video that, Jazz and the other people in the video referred to masculine and feminine. So, those can include like clothing, colors, hairstyles, body language, and things like that. And then, think about what transphobia means. I want you to look that up, and it's been provided in your list of handouts with your vocabulary. That hatred or fear of those who perceived or break or blew those stereotypical gender roles, often expressed as stereotyping, discrimination, harassment, and violence. And then think a little bit about, this genderism. That's the systematic belief that people need to conform to their gender assigned at birth, and like a gender binary system that includes only male or female. So I want you just to take a look at those links that I provide you, and with those handouted definitions. So, just take a look at those with the gender binary, expansive, the expression, the intersex, and non-binary. And then once you finish looking at those, I'm going to provide you an opportunity. You can either work independently or in groups or 2 or 3. You can go ahead and work with a group that you're in now, or you can switch groups. That's completely fine. So I want you to get with the groups, and we're going to watch the video clips from the documentary. And you're going to be able to look through those transcripts. And after each video clip, I want you to take about 5 minutes, and I want you to generate questions that will be from that specific video clip. And I want you to add it to our class Google document master list. And we're going to use those later at the end for the project. So actually at the end for your project, after you've gone through all these video clips, is you will select 5 of those questions, and then you'll definitely answer those. And then you'll be doing research, in which I provided a list of those links for you to do research as well. And then you know, we will get to a point which will probably not all happen in one session, but we will present your final presentation, and you have a lot of freedom there, so you can read the requirements on that. And then we'll definitely, you know, basically reflect on that, and because we all want to reflect and share, you know, the most important thing that we've learned about, you know, transgender or those issues. So let's stop here, and then we'll go ahead and get into our groups and watch those video clips, and then we'll move on from there.